Gum or Joba. All right.
You brought something from Constitution you wanted to say, or
Not
you
that I
think
wanted to
it's a
say, but
most,
why don't we like
you think we maybe missed
Like-
that point?
let's see. Not necessarily like that I want to say anything, but why don't we just quickly look at, or I guess one of the things about your podcast is you're trying to explain grievances, right? Problems that you're having.
Yeah, like
with the
from,
government.
Explain from
Why don't
inside.
Why don't I
like,
tell you the grievances that they had, right? I'll tell you those I'm going to read them quickly. All right, but this is, remember, you're in 1773. You're sitting in a bar. It's been a couple.
Not too quickly, because you remember we need to translate this to George.
Not too quick, but let's see. This is what they were talking about. They were sick and fed up of the shit, and I don't blame them. So this is what the king, in England had did to these people that came over here, risked their lives, and built a society out of nothing. Literally, it was dirt. Like that. Remember, they came here on a boat, and it was like, go take a boat to a deserted island and build a country. They did that in like 100 and something years. So he has refused to assent to his laws, the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. So he's basically saying he won't even. He's a hypocrite. He won't even adhere to his own laws. He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be obtained. And when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend to them. Imagine you're 5,000 miles away. You're trying to make a new law to help each other. You send it to the king. He doesn't give a shit. He doesn't answer you back. And when he finally does, he postpones you, blows you off, like doesn't care.
So grievances are what founding fathers...
This is Declaration of
talking.
Independence, yeah. This
Yeah,
is like we're sick of your shit. We're our own country, and then they go to war.
This is the list why we're doing it, right?
Right, exactly. Yep. So, yeah, this is exactly why they do it, and of course, there's an all-out war. So he has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people unless those people would relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, a right inseminable to them and formidably to tyrants only. In other words, he says the most congested areas where the most people are, right? He doesn't want to pass any laws because you need more legislation, you need more, and he says, okay, I'll pass a law to help, but you have to relinquish your right and obey only, the government and pay the tax that I want, things like that. So he's kind of trying to buy people off. Has called together legislative bodies at places of unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of their public records for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures. Okay, fine. The king says, okay, fine, I'll have a meeting with you. Get on a boat, come to England, and we'll talk about it there, right? So now you just went through like a month and a half at sea, you're sick, So he had dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with manly firmness and invasions on the rights of people. So he's invading people's houses and all this kind of stuff. He's refused for a long time after such dissolutions to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative powers incapable of annihilation have returned to the people at large for their exercise. The state remaining, in the meantime, exposed to all the dangers of invasion from without and convulsions within. So he's basically fixing elections.
So if he was good king, there would be no America, kind of.
Yeah.
But it's a good king. I don't know
if that ever happens.
Not like
He has endeavored to prevent the population.
He sounds like bad guy.
He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states for the purpose of obstructing laws for naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migration. They're basically saying he won't let more people go. They're getting too powerful. I want them to disintegrate. He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing to assent laws to establish judiciary powers. Doesn't want to set up a court system. He has made judges dependent on his will alone for the tenure of their offices and the amount of payment of their salaries. He's saying, okay, when we do have a judge, I'm going to hold their money back unless they make orders upon what I think and what I think of the people. He has kept among us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of our legislatures. So you cannot have military people stationed in people's personal property. Now, then you could, right? Imagine just having a whole group of 10 Marines in your basement. using your stuff.
Nobody asks you.
Nobody, of course not. No, and if you
That's
don't do it, they'll arrest you.
That's what they did during COVID times.
Yeah, kind of.
You sound like you're reading modern Georgia.
Right. For quartering large bodies of armored troops among us, for protecting them by a mock trial, for cutting trades, for imposing taxes. They just go on and on. For imposing taxes without consent, depriving us, transporting beyond seas, pretending offenses, abolishing free system of English law, taking away our charters, suspending our legislations, abdicating our government, plundering our seas, ravaging our coasts, transporting large armies, just goes on and on. So obviously they're pissed. And, has excited domestic insurrections. So they create riots here. There was like English loyalists that were called that were here, and they would fight with the revolutionaries. Rules of warfare, destruction of all ages. So goes on. But the point is that was what they were upset about. So that's just a very condensed version that I condensed even more. And you can understand how that would upset anybody, right? Especially after all that you went through. So then you have, the founding documents. Like we talked about a lot of them, but there's the Constitution that lays out the framework, which is like how the court systems were set up, the representation. We talked about that. The Constitution is actually pretty easy to read and understand. There's articles, right? Article 1.
When you get
taxes.
citizenship, they give you constitution.
Yeah,
like
they should.
Gift.
Yeah.
And the Declaration of Independence.
Cool. Yeah. So there.
I'm sure a few people read, but I did.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and it's amazing how short. It's really not very long. I mean, there's 7 articles,
and it's easy to read. It's not, and it's understandable. So you don't have to finish law school to read.
Not at all. And it's well written. It's short and sweet, and that lays out the framework for taxes and courts and elections and all that kind of stuff, and it all makes sense. Then they got into the amendments, right? So very quickly, they realized we need to make some more personal attempts at freedoms. That's what it's all about. So the First Amendment, you guys have heard free speech, right? So do you have, I would say, let's say in Georgia or other, is there a right to total free speech? You can literally say anything you want, short of directly inciting violence. And I mean, you really got to say.
Should be directly violence, not.
You could say something online. You put it online right now. Like I want to kick Joe Biden down the stairs, right? It's violent, but you could say that, wouldn't be a problem. If you start making threats or stuff like that, then that's serious, of course. But is that?
But speech, it's not only speech; it's an impression, right? You can paint something. So
No,
so long as it's like your property or
He's
something.
asking in Georgia, how it is in Georgia. He's asking questions.
Like, can you say whatever you want, pretty much, and peacefully assemble? So, can you also?
No, in the Constitution says same thing, free speech.
Okay.
But
Yep. You can call it out. You can say what you think it is.
You can debate.
Yeah.
And show how wrong they are, but when you ask government something to do, so second step will be it's gonna come to you. This, and so you saying maybe you think it's for bad people, but you give more power to government. So.
Right.
And like you said, tomorrow someone new comes, clicks something in mind. He's gonna close your television now.
Right. Yep.
Because yesterday someone could have closed that.
As they can close our podcast.
Yeah. No, that's a problem. And it happens here too. Like people will visit protests and try to take signs down, and of course there's the normal people that are like, let him say what he wants. He's not hurting anybody. So it can happen. But the point is that what are we based in? If we're based in truth, if we're based in these different principles, then we have to. Sometimes unfortunately let people say and express themselves however they want, even if we don't agree with it.
As from, you asked about how is it in Georgia, as for freedom of assembly, it's happening now. Like you see, whatever, LGBTQ, they celebrate, they have parades, and nobody beats them.
No.
So in Georgia, they can be beat up.
As I understand
so
it,
they don't have freedom of assembly.
Yeah, as I understand it, it's
2 or 3, yes, but if you are 100,
yeah, it's very conservative there, and it's a little bit of a tricky, topic. I mean, you don't want nobody wants things that they don't agree with jammed down their face, especially with children and stuff like that if it's inappropriate. But I think there's got to be a certain level of tolerance, and but we got to just be respectful of each other. So going in and assaulting someone, that's not hurting anybody, that's not influencing a child. Even if they're influencing a child, I don't think it calls for violence. Like violence is an extreme measure to take.
Yeah, but when you say if you don't hurt somebody else, can you go naked in a bar?
No, it's illegal.
So you don't hurt somebody, but you still cannot go.
Well, that's a crime. That's just like a regular crime that we all agree on that can't happen. Because it could be a child, right? And that could be...
Okay, so
in a way,
again, it's coming with a common sense.
Yes, common sense. If a child sees that could be, in a way, an assault on a child.
So everybody understands, so
right.
A lot of this... normal.
A lot of it goes, without saying. But we got to keep moving. So let's go to... Yes. Let's go... Because that's a good one. But that's why it's the first
most important.
That's why it's one, right? Second one, what's right behind that is a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. There's more to this where they talk about what that means. And basically what it meant, again, back then was kind of having the ability to form private militias to fight against the government that got out of hand. But then also it talks about individuals' right to keep and bear arms, which is fundamental here. The third, no soldier shall in time of peace be quartered in somebody's house. So you can't. That's important. It's something that I guess other people.
But before it was normal, right?
Yes. Oh yeah. And use all your stuff. Like use all your food. Back then things were tight. And you have to feed the soldiers and clothe them and house them and bathe them and all these things. It was probably a lot, not easy. The Fifth Amendment. So this is a really good, or the fourth, I should say. This is important if you ever get stopped. And of course, there's a lot of people here making sure that the police are in order. But the fourth is about unreasonable searches and seizures. So without serious level of suspicion, we cannot be searched and we cannot have our property seized. So what that means is, if basically a peace officer or a police officer would need to see a crime committed and have really good evidence that something, even to just pat you down and search you, right? They can't pull you over here and just search through your stuff. It's illegal. People don't know that, and they sometimes say, go ahead and search it, and they incriminate themselves, which will lead me to the Fifth Amendment. But a cop can't just take your phone. They can't take your car. They can't take anything. So this is really important because it's making sure that the military or police or anybody in a position of power, nobody can just take your shit and look through it without a serious level of suspicion. Or
they can take my shit.
Yeah. Or without a warrant, and a warrant has to go in front of a judge, and a judge has to read the facts and say, I watched Ed, he had drugs in his house, and I saw where, and you have to be specific, like which room they're in, and
they have to have this paper.
It's got to be signed.
Judge.
It's got to go to a judge. Yeah, right. So there's a process just to search through.
You
somebody's.
say peace officer?
It's just another word for a police. It's anybody that's in a cop. That's not a military personnel. So it's like a civilian cop. Then the fifth, right? This is really important. You don't have to say anything. You heard when you get arrested, you have the right to remain silent. You can get arrested. You go punch somebody in the face, get arrested, and just never say anything ever.
You can plead my fifth.
Plead the fifth. That's why it's the fifth,
movies,
right? I plead the fifth. It's the Fifth Amendment. So you could say, I want a lawyer, and that's it. And according to our Constitution, it's all built in here, that you absolutely have to be appointed. You'll be appointed a lawyer, either whether you can afford one. You'll hear them say that. If not, there's people that are public defenders paid by the tax dollar to defend people that they're not criminals yet because but the people that are suspected of a crime. right? Which is important. Especially there's people that get arrested that didn't do anything wrong. It happens, right? There's other things. You can't be tried for the same crime twice. All these different things that are built really beautifully. Kind of keeps going on, especially to the court process. In Amendment 6, they talk about a speedy and public trial. So let's say you're arrested for something. They're not going to have you sit in jail for 10 years like they do in other countries before you even get a trial. And this is amazing, in the trial, if you're going to have a jury, like if there's a crime was committed, it's going to be a criminal court. There's a jury selection process, right? So if for whatever reason the defense says, okay, there's 12, let's say 12 jurors in like a capital murder case, and they can dismiss jurors, so they both attorneys listen to the jurors, and if maybe they're biased, maybe the guy that committed the crime, I'm just going to use an example. It was a white guy from the South, and he's notorious. Let's say he committed a racist crime. Mm-hmm. And one of the jurors is a guy that is a professor and, African American studies, and he's like hardcore about that. They might say that's like they don't want to, he might be a little biased. So you can dismiss infinite jurors, right? Infinite jurors. Obviously, it has to go in front of the judge, and the judge will say, now you're being ridiculous. There's no reason to dismiss this guy,
That you can ask for.
Yep, you can just keep cycling jurors through until you find somebody that's just like, okay, like I don't have any dog in the fight, like just whatever. I'm willing to listen and hear the story.
So that's a Sixth Amendment?
That's the 6th, yeah. The 7th, common law, this is just basically the size of the lawsuit. Anything over $20, back then it was $20, right by trial by jury. So if there's a big money dispute, now it's much more, I think it's $3,000 or $5,000. If it can go in front of I believe a jury.
Does it say $20?
It did back then, $20. So, 8, excessive bail shall not be required. So again, these are all ways to control people. You get arrested for something, let's say you didn't even do, you could set their bail to be $1 million and they just never get out of jail. It's just, for example. Well, it can't happen. If you commit a small petty crime, you might have $1,000 bail. If you commit a serious crime, you could have no bail or $1 million, right? And if people aren't familiar with our court system, it probably works the same way, but you're arrested and you're held in like a county jail until your trial, which is, as we already read, supposed to be speedy and public. You can't just sit in jail because you might not have committed a crime.
It does not say how long.
No, but speedy and public depends on your crime, but it could be.
Again, it should be common sense.
Yes, yeah.
It cannot take years.
They have to get ready for the trial. If it's something simple, like you stole a car, it could be a couple weeks. But if it's a serious murder trial with like a lot of evidence, it could be a year or more.
Yeah, it takes investigation.
Yes, exactly. So it just kind of depends, but it's going to be fair. And if it's not, of course, you can go to your attorney and say this is taking too long. There's always and that's really quick side note, is there's what's called a system of checks and balances in all areas of our government. So the legislative lawmakers check the judicial, which is the judges, which check the executive branch, which is like the president and the military side. So nobody's more powerful. Like the president's not more powerful than the Supreme Court justice. Like they're all kind of equal, if that makes sense. And none more powerful than the people. It's important. So Amendment 8, except we talked about that. 9, enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be constituted denied. So basically, this is pointing to everybody is entitled to these rights, right? And remember, of course, we had the abominations of slavery and all that happened. And once we started, we freed the slaves with the Civil War and all these things. We had to introduce amendments to make sure all people, women, minority, everybody was included in all these God-given rights and the rights that are on paper here. The power is not delegated to the United States, or reserved to states respectively, or to the people. So this is good. Amendment 10. The power is not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively, or to the people, right? So it's like, if there's something in here that's not delegated by the actual Constitution, the states can decide on their own. And if the states can't decide, the people will decide. And they'll make the laws. They'll introduce the laws. Like you can literally create your own states here. You can create your own cities. I don't know if you guys know that, but you can incorporate your own city here. You can make your own city. You can make your own police force.
How? Like get the
Yeah,
land.
I think it's like 100 people. You have to have some land. Yeah, you'll even see if you look on public
I did
record
not know
maps,
this.
you'll see unincorporated. Like some cities are corporate. It's really interesting. You know how deep it gets. But yeah,
like Nevada, it's a lot of
yeah, like just land, right? Like you
Right.
can make your own city with your own. You know, you have to abide by these different procedures.
Right.
But you can make your own city with your own rules. You know, so long as they fit the.
100 people. At
I think it's
least,
I think it's
probably.
100 people or more.
And but it's your law should be like not against the federal law.
Can't break the federal or the
Okay.
state laws. Yeah, but you can do whatever you want in the states.
Ah, okay.
That's my problem.
Yeah.
You
You need your own.
like,
You need your own city.
Yeah, but you're not giving me gun permit
Right.
here.
Oh yeah, you
and-
still need a gun permit. Well, the gun
to
permit.
feel fully American.
Yeah, to backtrack to that, as far as the New York City, man, I don't know. I can't speak for New York City.
Okay, forget. But
Yeah.
why can't you go to New Jersey with that?
Because New Jersey is a communist state.
Like with what? What do you think?
Gone. He can't cross the bridge
Yeah.
if he has PA permit.
They're working on that. So they're trying to pass concealed carry universal in the states license, and I think it is
think it
available.
should.
No, but this is more than this. Like, so we have examples like this, like create a city, somebody use this 10 amendment. We know, like history.
Well, if you want, there was just a documentary on Netflix about this, like these spiritual people that came from India. They made their own city in Oregon, you know, but that's how all the cities were made. You know, they were all made.
yeah,
the same
because
way.
you say it was nothing here.
Nothing
woods.
here. Yep.
It's only woods.
Yep.
And so you get probably land as much as you want, but that's the constitution says it's ownership. It's important too.
Yes.
Like
Yep.
how they.
Yeah, who owns it? You have to
protect-
buy all the land there, be the owner of the land, and yeah, you can incorporate your own city. You know, obviously it's kind of rare now. Most things are totally
Yeah,
established.
now it's a little bit late.
Yeah. There's still, and this is something that's interesting. I don't know if people know, but the United States is fucking enormous. I mean, it's huge and it's so vast, and there's just millions and millions of acres of land that are still just like farmland or forests.
Especially in the middle.
The middle, there's like, yeah,
Middle
it's
is-
huge.
Because I was doing the tracking, so
Oh yeah, you would see it all. Yeah, that's
I
cool.
see it, like
Even when you fly,
You fly
hours, you see
Yep,
nothing.
see nothing. You know, it's just open land, and a lot of it's for sale or whatever. You know, but most people set up in and around the major cities, and then there's of course the
coast to like
The coast
this
are-
side and this side.
for sure.
Yeah,
That's where the
coast to
majority of
coast,
the people.
yeah.
But there's also a lot of major central, like Chicago and Indianapolis and like these places. But I mean, as far as like if people are listening in Georgia, like I might just see what I see on the movies. I see like California and New York, and like that's literally not even a drop in the bucket to like what's out there. I mean, there's so many cities that you don't even think of with just millions and millions of people. It's huge. It's just massive, massive. The amount of people, the amount of land that's here, and the natural resources and how beautiful it is.
They don't even have enough names. So there is a city called Moscow.
Yeah, exactly.
Names
it's
are
a
not.
lot of cities from Europe.
Oh yeah. Around here, all these names are all almost all from
Germany.
England. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
German.
this was settled by the English. So like Jersey is from England. You know,
Yeah.
New Jersey.
Yeah. If you look
York,
at
New York. You know.
English second division, like Cheltenham,
Yep.
Birmingham.
Yeah.
all
If you open like a map and look at it, you'll see all the names are like here. You know, like all the names are here, which is pretty cool.
You know,
Those are the first. I think, like most important ones.
27 there was, right?
There's I
So,
think there's 27 total.
27, yeah.
And then it gets, obviously now we're getting in the 1900s. It gets to be a lot more social things, especially with like, you know, all people being
What's the
queer.
last one and when?
And then here's real quick. Here's amendment. What is this? 19. This is women's right to vote. You know, these kind of things start coming out. The last one, actually, I'm just looking through here. So here's 24. To vote. It's just like a lot of voting, like who can vote and all that kind of stuff. All right, the final one, 27. No law varying the compensation, so it's just the money people getting paid for the services of senators and representatives help take effect until election of representatives have intervened.
Is it pretty much technology proof? Like now,
That's a good question.
chat
Because things are going to change a little bit, right?
Chat GPT and all this coming.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with that. I mean,
They talking marriage with robots.
I hope not.
Now robots will want rights.
Yeah.
But I think
Can robots
it
vote?
should keep the simple because you can say everything on the paper. So I think just keep it like this.
Yeah, they do. They kept it.
Yeah,
they
but
kept it.
that's
Some point they decided to don't touch. Probably.
Congress, like our Congress, and there's your state government, your federal government. These guys are working all day, and these people are smarter. No offense, they're smarter than us. Like these are attorneys, these are scholars. This is all they do is read cases and they look at data. There's really smart people here. That's important to know. I think maybe the smartest in the world. And they're looking at data, and most people are fair, and they're working at legislating and looking at all these kind of different threats and analyzing things, and they're writing new laws every day. Now there's like tens of thousands. This is the framework. This isn't the actual laws. You can look at the PA legal code. You look at the federal legal code.
That's important. If you put that as a frame,
Yes. Yeah.
then it's hard to go wrong.
Right, because like let's say I want to write a law where it's like I don't want anybody to say this word about it'll immediately get rejected because if any of it infringes on any of these, it's immediately tossed out of the court.
Okay, great. So we gonna finish. It's almost 2 hours.
or we can have break and talk about like 10 minutes about. I want to talk about like army, the
Why you
draft.
want to break?
I mean
The draft.
Draft and 50 years ago they stopped mandatory. This is huge problem in Georgia now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like that's the main.